Okay, this August 16th, 2017 meeting of the Oyster River Cooperative School Board will come to order. Todd Allen will be sitting in for Dr. Morse, who's taking some well-deserved time off. First order of business, the approval of the agenda, and there's one change, that there will be no motion to affirm the hiring of an Oyster River Middle School language arts teacher, as Emma Bricker has agreed to continue on and give us more time to do that search.
It's world language.
The world language. Okay, so that's not, we'll not be doing that. So with that change, could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Denise?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Moved by Denise, seconded by Brian. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 5 in favor. The agenda is approved. Public comment?
I don't have my glasses, so I'm going to wing this one. I'm Dean Rubine from Lee. I got an email from my state representative, Amanda Gorge. She represents Lee and Barrington. And I think this is also in consultation with the other state rep, Jeff Salloway. They're trying to start up a program called Lee Listens, and it seems to involve elected officials meeting the public, which I suppose is mostly Lee citizens is who they're aiming it at. And I think they're trying to ask the Lee school board member, with the blessing of the board, to participate, along with the Lee Board of Selectmen. And I think they're planning some informal events where they just go where some people are and let them ask questions, and something more formal where they try to get perhaps our U.S. congressman person or other elected officials at a higher rank participating. Anyway, I said I'd pass the email on to you guys, and consider yourself passed. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Approval of the minutes. Got a motion to approve the August 2nd, 2017 minutes. Denise?
I motion to approve the August 2nd regular meeting minutes.
Moved by Denise. Is there a second? Second by Al. Okay, are there any changes? I didn't notice any.
I think there was a place where the vote count is listed as 7-0, which couldn't happen because I was
Couldn't happen?
Okay.
Okay. So, all those in favor of approving the August 2nd minutes, raise your hand. 5 in favor.
Do you want to abstain?
I read the
If he
minutes.
abstains, we won't have, right? Don't we? Oh, no.
They look
listen.
fine.
What? Did you? Okay.
I was saying in quorum, but we do.
Let's recall. 5 in favor, the minutes are approved. Announcements, commendations, and comments from the district? From the board? Brian?
Drove by Mass Way today and checked out the new playground. Looks great. It's still a work in progress, but it's pretty much there, so kind of excited for when the kids come back in another week and a half or so, I believe, and 2 weeks, and see their new playground. They're gonna. My inner child was coming out. I want to.
Are we allowed to play on it, or?
I think there's a weight limit.
Okay.
But I also noticed we have a new website, or a rebranded website, I should say.
Yeah.
And I was going to mention the Mastway picture was actually upside down. Somebody fixed it between an hour ago and now, I guess. So it's right. Yeah, that's what I thought. So I just checked it. So, but it looks good.
Good.
Very easy to follow.
Good. Other board comments? Okay. District reports. Turn over to you, Mr. Allen.
Okay, thank you. You should have in your packet the enrollment updates for the 4 buildings. If you look at them, you can certainly see that across the board, enrollments are, right at district guidelines. A couple of places where we're on that brink, but we feel very comfortable that we're in a good place staffing-wise and numbers-wise. And so, so we have the Mastway, as you can see, the total numbers is a little more than the long-range projections had predicted, but generally the other schools are right on target. So any questions about enrollments? Actually, one thing, real quick, one of the last meetings, you were asking about Barrington enrollment at the high school. We do have 138 for this coming year, and if you look at the Barrington numbers, you'll notice that the freshman class is the biggest with 43, and the senior class is 22. For next year, I would envision that sort of shifting forward, so the 22 that are seniors are being replaced by a similar number to what is in the freshman class, just to give you an idea of what to expect.
So just,
Say that.
How many in the freshman class?
There are 43 Barrington students in the freshman class and 22 in the senior class. So when we're projecting out to 18, 19, the 22 seniors will graduate, and the incoming freshman class will probably be something in that 40 to 43 number.
where do you think that's going to level off? Do you think like 160 if you have classes of 40, or?
We have had preliminary conversations with Barrington, and I think Barrington is ready to kind of ease off and start to kind of cap the number. I don't think they're quite there yet. I think Sue will talk about it in the budget memo, but we're looking at maybe only going up 15 next year, depending on what Barrington's feelings are. So
Okay.
that conversation will take place soon.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the enrollment report. Smarter Balance test, if you look in your folder, Michael emailed me earlier in the week wanting the Smarter Balance data for the 2 previous years as well. So I added 2015 and 16 and stuck it in your folders. Couple of things. Clearly, we do Smarter Balance testing grades 3 through 8 and SAT testing at grade 11 currently. Remember, in 2015, we were doing Smarter Balance in all grade levels, and it was only last year that SAT became the state assessment. So the comparing of the 11th grade data is a little funky. So clearly you can see by looking at the report, just to give you an idea, the way they score the test is they give it, you get a 1, 2, 3, or a 4. 3 and 4 means proficient, and 4 means beyond proficient. So when you give the number of percentage of kids that are scoring at 3 or above, it means proficiency. So that's the percentage of kids that are considered proficient at that grade level. So clearly compared to the state at all grade levels, we're doing quite well. Couple of things I would probably give you some comparative data to other schools, but the state website is undergoing some significant changes, and the comparative data is no longer available on the website, so I could not provide that to you this time. On the subject of news about Smarter Balance testing, you may have heard this in the news. State legislature did pass a law that went into effect August 4th. We're still waiting for some clarification from the federal Department of Ed, but basically it changes the requirement for how often you have to do standardized testing. So the law that went into effect August 4th basically says you have to do a state test once in elementary school, once in middle school, and an SAT in high school, as long as the rest of the time you're doing some other locally adopted standardized measure. In our case, that would be STAR. So assuming that the law as passed by the state legislature passes muster with the feds and everything goes into effect as planned, we would be talking about doing Smarter Balance testing only once in the elementary grades, once in the middle, and once at the high school level, just so you know for future reference.
I got a question.
Sure.
And it's like probably the hard one. So on the SAT, how do they figure it the 1, 2, 3, 4?
Basically what they do, it's kind of the same process they do with the Smarter Balance test. I mean, ultimately there are numbers assigned. I'm sure you're familiar with the standard 800-point scale on an SAT. Basically they statistically analyze that from 200 to 800 and determine what levels are in that proficient level. It's different between math and language arts, but it's somewhere around 500 would be that kind of 3 or above. Our actual average SAT score, I asked Heather to get that for me, and I'll give that to you at the next meeting. But I think our combined SAT average was like 1,146, so we did extremely well again this year on the SAT. Any other questions about this standardized testing? Okay. So the next thing I wanted to kind of share with you is that we have in your packet you'll find a draft of really 3 surveys. Obviously homework has been a point of concern in this community for a long time, and I think it percolates up it has percolated up periodically over the years. And so in this community in particular, it's kind of a hot button issue right now, so we definitely want to be looking into it. Suzanne will be talking to you in a little bit about changes in the master schedule and some of the big picture thinking that's going on at the high school. But I wanted to share with you a draft of a survey we want to use this fall to try to get some baseline data on perceptional data on homework. So the survey, there are really 3 surveys. One is for students, another is for parents, and another one is for teachers. The questions are basically the same. They're just tweaked to align with whether it's a kid or a parent or a teacher. But the idea is to try to establish how much homework are kids experiencing, and then obviously use that data as we enter into these conversations moving forward. So I certainly would be interested in any input and feedback you might have on it. We could do that at a future meeting, or if you have thoughts you want to share now, I'm glad to take those.
When are you going to get it?
The thought would be to do it sometime in mid-late October, because we want to allow the stress of the year to kind of, I shouldn't say it that way, we want things to kind of, to get to the point where the amount of work that is, the workload is consistent, and it's something that you can gauge. If we did it at the beginning of the year, it would be purely thinking back to, gee, what was it like last year, and it wouldn't be as accurate, so. Yes.
I really like them. I think they're very good questions, and I think would be very interesting to see how the perception shifts, from one group to the other.
Yes. You want to take bets on where we think the perception will be more homework? Okay.
I'll go with students.
Okay, there you go. I'll take that.
I just think this is tangentially related to this, but, we've talked before about getting kind of idea of how many courses the homework issue is like the individual homework in courses, but how many courses you take, because you multiply even a modest amount of homework times 7, and that can be a lot. So the idea that to take a survey or just check student records to see how many kids are taking 7 courses.
Right.
And do you have people taking 7 courses plus 1 or 2 APs, which really puts a huge amount of pressure on students. Sure. And I think maybe with the ultimate idea of, I don't know, having a policy or certain guidelines that if you want your child to be in athletics and you want them to take 7 courses and you want them to, have time for the family, they're just that minutes in the day. So we really need to look at that as a piece of the homework puzzle.
I agree. Were you suggesting the idea of adding that as a question?
No. I think it's a different question, because I don't think you really even need to go to students. It's a pretty mechanical question. Okay. You can have a random sample of maybe 25 schedules and see what people are taking.
Yep.
I think it'll be a really interesting thing this year in particular, because we just are adding that extended learning opportunity person, and to follow, what does that mean in the schedule? I mean, so if you add the extended learning opportunity person, will that change the perception that I have to take 7 classes and 2 APs? Will you begin to prioritize, maybe I should do an internship, or maybe I should do something else? So my thought is it's going to be a really interesting thing to see how that changes the dynamic of the schedule.
Yeah.
That would be my hope, actually, is that, as you build these meaningful ELO experiences, that it would take an important place in a student's academic experience.
Yeah, I was hoping they'll because what really sticks in my mind is when we went to the class and the students were talking, this kid was like, I took 7 classes and I really regret I didn't do this internship writing thing. And I was like, so there was it was like not prioritizing what was really your interest in that. So I think it would be a really interesting thing to see how that changes over.
Or whether people try to take 7 courses plus it.
Yeah, totally. You're right.
Denise?
Now, but, now thinking about it, it might be good to have that question on the student survey, just to say, what grade are you in, 9th grade or above. There could be, because obviously it doesn't apply for middle school, but for high school, and how many classes, are you currently taking?
Okay.
Because it would be interesting to see if there's a correlation between how many hours and the stress they feel, as they are saying for the survey, and comparing that to how many classes they say they're taking.
Yeah, I think I could structure the survey so that if you identify yourself as a 9th through 12th grader, a scroll-down menu would come up and would be asked that question.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would that be ambiguous? Because, you count gym as course, you can't help, you know, you have some courses that don't meet every day.
I think you just would say, how many classes are you taking? Because
Right.
it just gets to that whole, if they're taking 7, they're taking 7. And yeah, they might not all be 7th academic, but at least it would give you an idea.
Let me discuss that with the high school leadership and
Okay.
see what their thoughts are.
Okay. I think it's great, kind of triangulate the data, you know, 3 different looks at the same thing. Other comments about the homework? No? Okay,
Great.
good to see that, good to see that in motion. Okay. So I don't know if there's a superintendent's report.
No, there is no superintendent's report. Those items were covered in my report.
Okay. Business administrator?
So at the last board meeting, you asked me to give you some estimates for the budget. So this is my standard memo with my best guess, I guess, is what I can say. So what I did is I just went back to the warrant articles and grabbed those figures from what our calculations were at that time. They'll probably be very different, but this is, I guess, what I would say would be the worst-case scenario. So you can see the guild contract, the ARESPA, which is the custodial contract, or as the administrators, and then we took the current health and added 10%. So those are what those numbers come out to. And if you were to compare that to the current budget that was approved, that total would represent a 2.79% increase. That all make sense?
And then the revenue, it's about 300,000.
Yeah, on the back page, I just did, again, some estimates. I did reach out to the state about the kindergarten aid, but I did see that we're going to get that 1,100 from what I see, everything I read. And I used the current enrollment for that number. But remember, that will go to each community. Adequacy matches with each community, so it will be an additional revenue, but it will match with each individual community. So how that plays out.
So really, for our perspective, in terms of our calculating the percentage, it's only the 180,000 we get to use.
Yeah, and did I put in there, that was based on just 12 additional students, too. So that would bring us up to 150, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would bring us, we're at 138, so if I added 12, that would bring us up to 150. And as Todd indicated, we haven't really talked to Barrington about where they are with their numbers, but, so that would be, I think, what did we say, Todd? 44 incoming freshmen?
Well, yeah, that's typically, we're in that 40 to 44 range.
Yeah, where we're losing 22, right? You said.
Right.
Might be a little more, too, because we're losing 22, so, but I just was very conservative with that. So, and I actually used the current tuition rate, and as you know, we do recalculate in October, so that'll be a little bit more, perhaps. So,
Sue, this year we're paying the buyout, the $20,000, right?
Right.
That's coming out of this year's budget,
Yes.
right? And next year, since there's no
Correct.
incentive, there'll be no
Right.
buyout. What will that effect be on the budget?
I started to work on that, and that will have an impact because that's encoded in the budget, and then,
Yeah.
however, that the newer people, we won't be paying that out. That's going to all fall out once we get everybody in place and we roll the budget with the new wages. It's easier to just let the system do that for us rather than me trying to calculate that. But I will do that just out of curiosity. I like to look at, I think I did that once before. I looked at when we had a retirement incentive, what the impact was on the first year, and it wasn't a whole lot, but year 2 and year 3 were significant, and I expect that to be true.
So would there be some way of estimating that at what point would we be?
As soon as everyone's in place, which is almost, and the first payroll is run,
Yeah.
usually somewhere around, probably maybe by your next board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably could come up with something there.
Because I think that's going to be a significant number. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm. I had one more question.
Sure.
In terms of, Jim's coming in here. Oh, I'm sorry. What, in terms of the facilities, what do you anticipate the increase would be for that? I mean, I know he doesn't put in a budget yet, but that's often a big figure, so.
Well, we've been adding about 200,000 every year to ramp it up to get to the, what was it, the 3% of the total budget?
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look at where we are. Oh, Jim, were we at like 980 this year? If we were to keep going, is it another 200?
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's another 200.
That'd be 200.
Yes, if we
Okay.
wanted
So
to
in
keep.
essence, it's almost like grabbing that $180,000 of the
Tuition money?
revenue. Tuition money really is almost earmarked for the
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And again, in terms of the buses, remember, we cut that back and we're just leasing. So the payment is only 55, and typically we have 240 to buy buses. I do know that we're looking at vans, I believe, next year, and those are a little less. So if we were to hold off on buses and just replace vans, that could be less too. So, not sure about strategic planning. I think, was that another 10? It's not a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10, 6.
10 next year and 10 the year after, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's not a big one.
Yeah.
And then in terms of middle school planning, I'm not sure how far we're going to get and need plans. So, and I don't know, I don't anticipate that to be a big,
I don't think that'll be a
chunk.
big thing this year.
Not this next year anyways. So, you asked me about trust funds too, and I didn't do anything with that. I'm going to look at that, and then by the next meeting, we should know what we're going to have to access for offsetting what we said we needed when we get to the tax rate portion and all of that. Those numbers will start to come in the 1st of September, so I'll have a better idea on that. Did I miss anything? Anything else we talked about?
Do you have do you have a sense of what a reasonable number, given all these numbers, are
For,
for a budget increase? Or is that our job?
that's kind of, well, yeah, it's your job to give us a percentage where you want us to land, but
Yeah.
if we were to do everything we talked about, no, not really. I think it's a little early. Once I do that salary, that's the biggest piece, to know
Okay.
what all those retirees and the differences are.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier just to let the system do that.
Okay.
There's a lot of new players.
Okay.
So.
Well, maybe a question about timing too, like when would the budget goal have to be set? I mean, because I think we only have one meeting in September, right?
That's correct.
So if it's not set at that September meeting and set in the first October meeting, does that set people back, or is that?
I think in the past we have been late and we've just adjusted. And you've adjusted your budget goal too based on what we've learned. When we get a retirement rate that's higher than we expected, when health insurance comes in, we won't have that until we're actually sitting down with the budget. So, I think it's not too late. I mean, it's always nice, but I think we've already said, for the most part, that we're going to try to hold the line as much as we can. I think, Al, you mentioned that in terms of, you asked about yellow sheets. I didn't even go there.
Yeah.
I'm not even going there, and I don't know what. I think we pretty much honored every yellow sheet we had last year.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure
Yeah, I
what
think
else.
early October seems like a reasonable
seems
point to have it.
Because that way we could get
Yeah.
the information
Right.
on salaries. Until we have that,
Right.
we're kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I'll get what I can for you for the next meeting, and then go from there.
What about is Title I money diminishing?
Yes.
Okay, so by how, do you have a sense of how much that's?
We used to have 3 positions, that used to fund 3 positions, and now we're only able to fund 1. So
Okay.
we've lost 2 of those positions, and we budgeted for those last year, knowing that we were going to lose those positions. And rumor is that Title I is going to go away completely.
Eventually. I think
Eventually.
we've got at least one more year
One
of
more year.
marginal reductions.
Go away for us, or you mean
Will go away for us, just because of the way it sounds like they're going to be awarding it. It's also true for the Title II funds as well. It's just slowly, every year it's a little bit less. So at some point, we'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
So, when I look at your 2.79%, and again, I'm not trying to rush at the next meeting, but the piece you're talking about, the salary thing, if you add in the salary thing and then the replenishing the funds thing, and could come up with a percent, then it pretty much gives us a baseline number, right?
Right.
In Massaron, it always seems like we're coming around 30,000 here or there, but you'll have what kind of is a realistic number of most of our fixed
Right.
costs.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I wonder, as part of our budget goal, whether we want to say something about replenishing the funds, because it would certainly be good if we could
Right.
use this year to try.
No,
this
so
might be a
if
good
she
year.
can throw that in there, we'll see what that looks like. Because what does that mean? Does that mean we're at 3.2 or 3.1?
But-
then we'll know exactly kind of what we're,
But when you talk about replenishing the funds, you would do that with what you had left over. You wouldn't actually appropriate money for it, or are you thinking of actually appropriating money to it? You could do that.
I think we had talked about
You
that a
did,
little bit.
okay. Yeah, and you could do that. You could actually appropriate money for that.
But that has generally been done as part of the year-end fund balance, correct?
It's always been the fund balance, right? So if the money's there, you replenish it. If it's
Right.
not, then,
Right.
you don't lose either way. But you can actually appropriate money, and that's the only way you can put money into a capital reserve too now, it has to actually be appropriated,
Yeah.
and on a warrant article. Has to be by warrant article.
Oh, it has to be by
Has to be
warrant
by
article?
warrant article, yes.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, so that'll be something we'll have to decide if we wanted to do that. You know, are we including that? Like last year, we wanted to include everything into our, you know, we didn't have any outliers, you know what I mean?
I know, but this kind of would be that way if you added that fund. I mean, you just kind of see what the impact is of replenishing those funds. If we just do it up front, we'll know. I mean, it's...
Okay.
Okay. Other questions,
Anything
Sue?
else?
No? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Bus routes?
Do you have it, Sue?
We have the memo, it was,
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, I don't know whether I have questions, I mean.
Right. I mean, it's pretty well established at this point. I mean, start time at middle school and high school, 8:15, end time 3:05. Elementary school, start time 8:55, end time 3:10. I mean, I think the big thing is that the routes are pretty tight in order to have this single-run system, so it's really important that we keep to schedule and so forth. But, yeah, the routes have been mapped out, the drivers have been out and driven them. We're pretty confident that this is all going to work, so we're in good shape.
Yeah, and I do have a few little notes that I took when we discussed this at our leadership meeting, that there are 21 routes, 6 of special ed routes, 27 buses on the road. Did you mention that? And that normally we have about 30 drivers. We have 27 drivers, so we are going to be short drivers. And where we're going to see that impact is after-school sports and spares. So if you know anybody that wants to drive a bus, we're really looking for drivers. And it's not just us. I just read 2 articles today. It's nationwide. It's just hard to find drivers. So, but yeah, in terms of morning and afternoon runs, we will be fine. But the extra runs, it's going to be tight because we're short drivers right now. But yeah, and the other thing Lisa said too was we're just going to have to see how it goes. You know,
I just want to
be
address
patient.
one really controversial bus stop, which is on Frost Drive. It's like, do you put the bus stop at the principal's house, or do you put it closer to mine? I don't know where I go and like.
Where is it now? Where is the stop now? It's at your house? Okay. Where do you want it? Do you want to vote on it?
I don't know.
Flip a coin. Are we good?
So if a member of the community has a question or concern about what they see online, are these pretty well settled and we need to let them run for the start of the school year, or is this still something that Lisa can adjust if there are concerns that are brought forward?
Certainly, if there's a valid concern and she can see that, she missed something, sure. She welcomes anyone to call her, and if you have questions, she's always done that. But for the most part, she feels like these are going to run, and might be a few hiccups, but we'll just kind of wait and see. But if anyone has questions, call her, and she'd be happy to respond.
And we should also note that if you go to our website, under the transportation link, there is an interactive map where you can go in and type your address in, and it'll tell you the bus and bus route. And based on that, certainly, there's also contact information for reaching out to Lisa if there are questions or concerns. So I encourage people to check that out.
Yeah. I did find that to be a little bit confusing this year with the combined run system for the afternoon, because it shows the origin of all the buses, regardless of where your kid is actually coming from. So, for example, I don't have any kids at the middle school or the high school, but those
Right.
still show up on my address, and I had a hard time figuring out how to read that.
Oh.
Oh, I see.
And I think it's because that's the same bus that's
Exactly.
bringing my elementary.
Yeah, it is definitely more complex in terms of sorting that out, because you have some buses that are transporting all 3 levels and some that are dedicated to a particular level. So some people will see a single bus because they have, I think there's 3 buses at Mastway and four that start at Mohammed that are exclusively elementary buses. So it would be clearer for those people.
Right.
So if people have questions,
Yeah, Lisa Huppy, her contact information is on the website, encourages people to reach out. I mean, yeah, she absolutely is problem solving as we speak, and I'm sure she will continue to do that right up until the first day of school.
Yes.
And beyond.
And beyond, definitely.
For the routes that say dropping off on the way to Mastway or dropping off on the way to Mohammed, does that mean that they're actually dropping off some of the middle school and high school students at their discharge bus stops before
Yes.
they go and pick up
Yes.
the elementary kids?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct. On the way.
okay, update on the strategic plan?
I'm going to move and go to the podium,
Okay.
I think, for
Okay.
that. Obviously, the strategic plan has been a huge part of the success of the efforts we've had in this district over the last 4 years. And one of the things that comes with it is every department in every school develops goals and then action items around those goals. And so tonight we're going to be reporting on the academic goals and what's been accomplished in the last year and the operational goals. So so there are a total of actually 26 goals that we're going to be talking about tonight. I'll try to do it in broad brushstrokes to give you an overview, and then Sue will be talking about the operational goals. So starting with the academic goals at the elementary school. Certainly, math has been an ongoing focus and continues to be. The K-5 Math Committee continued to work this year. One of the things that they've really worked a lot on is grade level and vertical meetings, trying to make sure we're being consistent across the school, and really beginning to look at, now that we have had Eureka Math in place for the last 3 years, beginning to look at, now that we've really got that down, how do we differentiate for a wide range of student needs? And so there's been a lot of work this year done on developing differentiation strategies and actually working with some of our related service providers like special education and so forth. So that's been a very successful year. The goal was phrased to go through grade 12. You heard a report in June about the work that the 6 to 12 Math Committee has done, and so I'm not going to review that with you again, but certainly be happy to answer any questions when I finish. But a lot of work was done there, really trying to look at the math sequence and make sure we're providing for all of our students' needs. Social emotional learning goal, the second goal there, really what the biggest accomplishment this year is there has been consensus reached around the common core, the core competencies for a social emotional learning program. And you may recall we had a lot of snow last winter, so we lost a couple of days to really be able to kind of bring some conclusion to that process. So we're still in the process of looking at different programs and determining what it will look like at the 2 buildings. But like I say, they did identify the core competencies for social emotional learning as being self-awareness, relationship skills, social awareness, and responsible decision-making. So they got a core, and then they're going to build from there, and there's a great committee that's working on it across the district. Goal 3 was to do with next generation science. Actually, I'm pleased to report we were actually further ahead when we started than we thought we were going to be. I think we took the approach this year that we were going to spend most of our time familiarizing ourselves with next gen. But Oyster River teachers are always one step ahead of the game, and so many of our teachers are really heavily into it, and so we were able to move it along a little further and got more into looking at available resources and things of that sort. So for this upcoming year, we'll be spending the time looking at aligning our curricula across the district and then making some decisions about resources to support those curriculum decisions. Goal number 4, please, if at any point you want to ask a question, please feel free to jump in.
I had a question about social emotional
Sure.
learning. Is social emotional learning conceived of as a kind of a program that's separate from the academic program? Because it would seem to me that like these skills, what you want to do is have them integrated into like math,
Correct.
reading, and you know, and if it's like taught as a separate course by guidance counselors, you know,
Right.
how do you, you know, A, you're taking up a block of time, and
Right.
B, are you integrating these into so that like the social skills of like working in a reading groups and writing groups, you know?
I think that's really the central core of where the dialogue is at right now. I think there's sort of within the committee, there's some that believe a program would be helpful, and there are those who really would prefer to have more of an organic Oyster River program created, and so we're really at the point of looking at that and looking at how it can be embedded in classroom experience. So like with the core competencies of self-awareness, relationship skills, social awareness, and responsible decision-making, you can easily see how those could be easy to embed in your language arts curriculum or science curriculum and so forth.
Because it seems if you're just talking about decision-making, if you're in like a course where you're making decisions, that's where the rubber meets the
Yes.
road, right?
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of it is getting all professional staff kind of in agreement around what are we trying to promote and to educate kids towards. And I think that has happened. Now it's a question of how do we do that.
Just a note that the PowerPoint isn't advancing for
Oh, I'm
folks that
sorry.
might be watching.
My apologies.
Yeah.
So I already spoke of the next generation. Any questions about that? Okay, then going on to personalized learning. Really the big focus around personalized learning has been to look at ways in which to support all learners, looking at multi-tiered support systems, and really looking at how to assist teachers to be able to differentiate. We also spent, both the Mastway and the Willamette staff spent time early kind of talking about what does personalized learning look like within the classroom, talking about choice and all of those kind of things. And going back to the math goal, one of the goals within math really tied into personalization, which was to bring in some professional development around differentiation using the Eureka program, which was really geared towards making sure we're meeting all students' needs. Okay, that's the elementary school.
So what's the next step there on the personalized learning?
Well, I think, you know, to develop a systematic approach to make sure that all kids' needs are being met. I think one of the things we're doing for next year, we're going to be working with a consultant, Marianne Nice, to help us sort of develop what's called a multi-tiered support system, which basically is the idea of looking at the various tiers of a student's learning experience, tier 1 being classroom, and a well-designed, well-taught classroom meets probably 90% of students' needs, and then students that need outside supports, that would be there's a tier 2, and then special education and things of that sort would be a tier 3. And what we're trying to do is to get ourselves to the point where we have a systematic approach, and I know that doesn't sound personalized, but one of the things that happens is, you know, a student can go through and have learning struggles and they're not addressed, and we want to make sure that as we're going along, we're dealing with those things, and also making sure we know each kid very well so that we can present them with challenges and things of that sort. So that's really kind of where things are at with that. Moving on to the middle school. Really the big, and you've heard from the middle school a lot this year, so the big umbrella of everything is competency work, and so you'll hear me talk about that multiple times as I review their goals. Certainly as you look at their first goal of collegial culture, you know, you saw the PLC of teachers from across the school in here many times, sharing with you the work that they were doing in a very collaborative collegial approach. The work that they did as a staff to build consensus around moving forward on all of these steps, and I really think that was where a lot of that energy was focused on. They've really worked to adopt a kind of a PLC model of professional learning communities and get staff to really engage in looking at issues and improve school structure, which leads me to the next goal, on school practice, looking at the idea of promoting student making positive connections with peers. There's a PLC that has developed there, an advisory PLC that's been working to create an advisory program that's going to be implemented this fall, which will hopefully help to make sure students are connecting with adults and working on some of those social emotional learning type skills as they advance through the middle school. So that is the school practice. Going down to goal number 3, which is assessment-related goal, really looking at the data, Smarter Balance, STAR, and so forth. As I mentioned before, the idea of, at the elementary grades, of looking at multi-tiered systems of support, that's also something that the middle school is working on, and really wanting to make sure we're looking at student information as often as possible and making the best decisions we can make for students. And so that's been a big focus there. I do want to just kind of throw out one quick thing with Smarter Balance testing. This is actually the 3rd year that Smarter Balance has been done. For the first couple of years with the data, because it was such a new test, it really wasn't good to use from a program assessment perspective, but now that it's been underway for 3 years, the data has been normalized, and it's actually more useful to us as a program assessment tool. And so we'll be looking at it from the standpoint of what are changes that need to take place in our ELA curriculum, what changes need to take place in our math curriculum as a result of looking at that information. The last goal for the middle school is around personalization of learning. And really, I think the big thing there, as they've adopted competencies, they've really looked at how to restructure the day. They've incorporated a concept called Bobcat time, which is really geared towards trying to meet all students' needs in a personal way. Students that need enrichment are given enrichment at that time. Students that need support are given support at that time. So that's certainly one aspect of that. And I would be remiss if I didn't also point out that the middle school has so many after-school clubs and activities. I couldn't even begin to name them, and there's new ones forming every day based on student interest and desire. So it's the middle schools are really happening place around enriching, personalized opportunities for learning. Any questions about the middle school?
I had one.
Sure.
If you have an advisory, where are you taking that time from?
It's being built into the early, the early part of the day. It's about 20 minutes, and it's just a time that's blocked out in the beginning of the day.
No, okay, that's not. But I mean, you have like a
But what is not?
You have like
Yep.
you have a full schedule.
Sure.
And then you're adding 20 minutes. So you have to take out something.
Sure.
So what are you taking out?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think the middle school is, and if Jay were here, he would definitely agree with me on this, is a place where pretty much all of our curricular initiatives sort of come together, in terms of there's a lot of demands that are placed on the schedule. So it would be hard for me to say that we're not doing this in order to do this. I mean, he has a schedule that's built so that the academic periods are 50 minutes each. And there is a Bobcat time built in that's 30 minutes a day. Kids have all of their core subjects, and then on top of that, they'll have a world language period, 6th through 8th. They'll also have a music period every day, and every other day they're having PE. So it is a very, if you haven't been at the middle school when it's a very busy place, and so so it's coming out of the day. I wouldn't be able to say to you it's coming out of math or science. It's been carved out because it's seen as important. Yeah.
I mean, you'd either have to shorten the periods during, shorten the periods for math and English by a small amount than to add up that 20 minutes. I just think that there's a math issue here, that if you're adding 20 minutes, you're taking it from something.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And I think whenever we add things, it's pretty good to say, well, what are we taking it from? Because there's a subtraction that has to go on as well.
Right.
So maybe I'll ask,
Yeah, I would, if you'd like, I can have Jay come in and talk more precisely about the schedule. But you're right. I mean, if you carve out 20 minutes, you've got to take it from someplace, for sure. I would argue that the people who work in middle school really see, and having been a middle school teacher myself for 23 years, I mean, that's where my passion was. That relationship component is really key to everything else. So if a student is just not ready to learn, you can send them to math class, but the more you can proactively work with kids and give them those skills, the more successful they're going to be academically. Okay, so the high school. The high school, really, I think the focus, rightfully so, was on NEASC reaccreditation. You'll actually, in the coming weeks, have the report from the NEASC committee given to you for you to be able to read. Suzanne just received it last week, right? Just last week. So we'll be sharing that with you very shortly after we've had a chance to kind of read through it ourselves and look at it. The year at the high school, the goals that were built really were tied into making sure we were addressing and dealing with preparing ourselves for NEASC accreditation. Goal number one really tied into school-wide learning expectations, and actually when you do get an opportunity to read the report, you'll see that that comes up over and over and over again. It's one of the key standards that the NEASC accreditation is based upon. Basically what those are is school-wide expectations for a student to, of areas that you want a student to become skilled and competent at by the time they graduate, and so the working to create them but then also embed them. So that's under goal one. Goal number two, regarding promoting the professional culture of collaboration. Really, I got to hand it to Suzanne how much they accomplished this year. I mean, to have a year where you had every single person on your staff was assigned a NEASC committee, and they met regularly to perform that work. And then on top of that, every department finalized their competencies for publication in the upcoming, they're actually already published. So we've had two very major kind of tasks accomplished, and it really required a lot of that collaborative work, and so a lot of great stuff took place in that regard, which will pay dividends as we move forward. And moving forward, the next layer, now that the competencies are in place and NEASC is behind us, is to begin to look at assessments and how those can be used to improve the learning experience of kids. So that will be the next big topic. I'm sorry, I'm behind on slides again. I apologize, Denise. Moving on to the third goal, which relates to college and career readiness. The notion of creating a commonly accepted and clear definition of program consistency. Really, again, I go back to the competency work that's been done. You now have, every Algebra 1 class is operating from the same set of competencies with the same set of expectations, and the teachers are meeting to talk about those and using the same program, and so there's a lot of consistency there. And so that's really been a big focus at the high school really for the last 3 or 4 years, particularly around the freshman-sophomore experience where there's a lot more common courses. Goal 4, relating to developing tiers of support and educational options that meet the needs of our students. Certainly, again, I've used the term multi-tiered systems of support. Again, that's something that the high school is spending time looking at, and certainly looking at data around students and trying to make sure that the things that kids need to be successful are dealt with. And probably the biggest success, I would say, under that area is the adoption, and I thank you for this, is the adoption of the ELO coordinator position, which really does get to that idea of being able to create experiences that really are geared towards individual student needs and interests, which I think is going to have a tremendous positive effect on the program. So any questions related to high school goals? Great. Sue, you want to talk operational?
Okay, in operations, 3 different departments to talk about. I'll start with facilities, and I'll try to hit the highlights on each of the goals. Goal number 1 was related to safety and problem areas. One of the goals this year was to have no lost time injuries to staff, no workers' comp claims, and it's been very successful. There's very little happening this year in that department. We had a few major ones a couple of years ago, but by refining some of our practices and cleaning operations, we were able to get that down. And also Jim Rozicki does safety meetings with the staff. I think he says he does that daily. So that's really helped in that department. Problem areas, those are identified regularly, either from teachers or staff. And then the whole communications piece is once a year we try to get emails out to let teachers know what they can and can't do in their classrooms. Joint Lesson Management Committee does that too, just to let them know what things can or can't be in the classroom so that we don't have any issues, especially when the fire marshal comes in and does his inspection. Goal number 2 in facilities, that one revolves around sustainability, and one of the goals there was to get most of the carpets out of the elementary school. We're in year 3 of a 4-year plan for replacement, putting hard surfaces down, and then that also allows us to do cleaning with the new method that Jim talks about, the resilient floor protection, where they just use water, trying to be environmentally conscious, not using chemicals on the floors. So we've been doing that, very successful, and it also, there's no more of that stripping going on, which we want to stop doing that. Also, in terms of environmentally friendly, we're using organic fertilizers on the fields and around the schools. Goal number 3. Let's see, that's the capital improvement goal, and the biggie there is the athletic field. Very successful there, but that required a little bit of training and some new equipment for our maintenance staff, and we've done that. We're moving right along on that. That's it for facilities. Any questions on facilities? Okay. Technology. Let me just switch gears here.
I have one question about,
Sure.
this may be looking to the future, like, when would we, like the tennis courts has been a big issue. And we've had complaints about those, and I don't think they're, where's that going to fit into this?
Well, that's the good question. I think Denise just mentioned we had a drone do a big picture of it, and we're currently looking at relocating the tennis courts to this, move the parking lot that's here,
Yeah.
put the parking across the street, and it's going to be part of our capital improvements.
Yeah.
Not sure what year. I guess it'll depend on what the number comes in like. Right now, we have someone giving us some figures, and we'll have that probably when we are budgeting. We'll be looking at that. So that is the plan.
Good.
So, and adding a court, right? Isn't it that we only
Yeah,
have 3?
So
we
that they
want
can host a match.
host a match, so yeah. So that's on there, definitely.
Susan, one question.
Sure.
On the new field, was there new equipment that we had to buy
Yes,
to maintain that?
yes.
Does that include anything like snow removal? If we have an early snowstorm and we have a soccer game or something we have to play, or? 'Cause I know you need special equipment for that, so.
I don't think we have snow removal for the turf.
No.
The only snow removal we did this year was with shovels and kids.
Yes,
The old-fashioned way.
yes.
Yes. I mean,
A nice hot sun.
Yes, yes, okay.
I mean, certainly, I don't know, Jim, do you want to just jump in real quick on that? Because I know that was a topic of discussion in Durham Parks and Rec as well.
It's Jim Rozicki.
Yeah, exactly. Jim Rozicki Facilities. Yeah, we went around a lot on that, and we want to do everything we can not to put a piece of equipment on that field to remove snow, especially on the track, damaging warranties. There is a process that could be used to get that done, but we want to steer very clear from that. We want our kids to play, and we would assist if it need be, but there's like a plow attachment that would go on
Yeah, with a
the
rubber
bottom of the
blade
blade.
and stuff like that, yeah. Yeah,
Correct.
I've seen them before, so. And yeah, the issue always was voiding the warranty, and you want to make sure it's done according to standard, and
Not only the turf, but the track as well. That's a big piece of it. And
the tractor has to be a certain weight, or it can't be too much, can't be too low on the tires and everything else.
then we had this conversation about, like, where do we put the snow? Because it's all fenced in. Either we're going to load it up all up on the track, and it's going to take forever to melt, and we don't have any opportunity to get it away out of that area. So we talked about this a whole lot.
But to kind of answer your question, if there were if we were hosting a home soccer tournament game and we had an early snowstorm in November, we would figure something out to remove the snow for the purposes of a tournament game, probably using shovels, I would assume. Which is what we did this spring. And actually, one of the side point as well, we had a very snowy winter, and so the field was completely clear in January. In fact, I was there during Christmas vacation. There were people out. It was a nice sunny day playing on the field, and then we got blitzed with multiple snowstorms in a row. And it was within 2 weeks the snow had melted for the most part, and we were back on it by February vacation. That's
right.
Yeah,
Well, they hold in heat very well,
yeah,
which helps in the winter.
for sure.
But yeah, I just always have that fear of, season's not over yet, and still got a game to play, and then we have another Halloween, storm, and just can really throw everything into it. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. So moving along to technology, goal number 1, we will use technology in a manner that that respects themselves, society, and environment. On this item, Josh, I believe, went to the policy committee, and they put a few new policies out there, created one about websites, appropriate use of email. That's about it for that goal. Goal number 2, the school district will consistently student-centered and effective integration of technology across all classrooms and grade levels that incorporate NET standards, digital portfolios, and district technology standards. We've standardized the model of laptops we buy. Purchased those this summer, actually. We have a lease program that works very well. It allows us to recycle our equipment every 3 years, so we're not too far out of sync with what's the greatest and newest model out there. We've reviewed and selected technology curriculum programs that align with the state and national standards, and the staff from all schools have reviewed and participated in webinars and demonstrations before we select software. Goal number 3, technology will support innovative student-centered instructional practice and personalized learning for all students so that they are college and career ready, prepared to pursue the paths they choose. The technology staff always attends the Kristen McAuliffe Technology Conference in Manchester. Lots of good information and lots of good practices that are demonstrated at those conferences. The IT staff participates in training events within the state and in New England throughout the year. And this year, our biggest success there is we now have 2 technology integrators. We have 1 in each of the elementary schools. Let's see, goal number 4, I'm just going to move right along here. Technology will allow for clear, consistent communication and provide multiple opportunities to engage with the communities of Lee, Madbury, and Durham. We have a new website. If you haven't had a chance to look, we're working on, it's still being worked on. We had a leadership meeting where we had a demonstration on a new way to communicate, and that's through Twitter. We're starting to work on that. Don't know quite where we are with that, but that's a new option that we're pursuing to try to get the news out there before it gets on Facebook and it's all misconstrued, I guess is the best way to say it. Let's see, goal number 5, Oyster River School District IT will align purchasing with district goals to ensure the appropriate resources are being purchased in a consistent manner across the district. Again, this addresses the computer lease and replacing the equipment at the end of this summer, and then we also are replacing the wireless access points. That's it for technology. Any questions?
So where are we with, as far as, I know at one time, we were short, like the number of, like the carts and how many, and all that, how many computers per cart and different things like that in terms of for student use, I guess. And I'm just wondering how we are with that at this point.
Josh?
We did add a couple additional carts this year, especially at Mastway, now that their enrollment is right up there with Mohermont, so the 2 schools are in line, and I think we had an additional cart at the high school and an additional cart at the middle school. But our big test is all the online testing, because like at the middle school we have to test everybody, and so far we've been able to do that no problem for the last couple of years. So
Yeah, we didn't have a single glitch this year with testing, nothing. There was no,
I try to
not
put
that I knew of.
off in my I try not to remember that, but yeah, it's been going really well. So
All set with technology? Moving on to child nutrition. Goal number 1, the Child Nutrition Department will improve communications and safety through training and professional development. Doris has all of our people trained in ServSafe. She also provides them with some workshops during our professional development days, giving them training in culinary practices. And then in terms of communication with the community, Doris is trying to reach out to the PTOs and trying to explain the food service program, give people an idea of what she offers, sharing that with the staff and the community. There's a lot of misconceptions about how the program works, so she's trying to get that word out there to help improve her participation, which is she's doing very well in that department, I'd have to say. Goal number 2, The nutrition department will continue to support sustainability by purchasing local foods and utilizing produce from school gardens. We do use the school gardens, and next year, I think you heard that Doris has made a connection with the Thompson School, and we're going to get even more fresh fruits and vegetables, and that'll be a real plus for both the university and the schools. Let's see, any other highlights there? Yes, and Doris also tries to do community dinners to get the word out to the community, to get parents in to see what the department can, what nutrition department feeds the students. And I think that's it in terms of goal number 2. Goal number 3, the nutrition department will develop an equipment replacement plan for each school. We've been working on that for a couple of years. So far, we've been able to replace the walk-ins at Massway and Mohermet. Doris, beginning of last year, we bought a transit van to help her bring her things back and forth. So we're doing a really good job there. And this year, I'm happy to say that for the first time since I've been here, Doris has been profitable. She's in the black. So, kudos to Doris. It's pretty exciting. Okay, any questions about nutrition? No? And last but not least, transportation. Oops, I'm behind here, so let's see. Transportation will improve communications and safety throughout the department. Lisa put together a leadership team. I go down to the transportation department once a month, and we meet with the drivers, and we talk about concerns they might have. Lots of them revolve around the traffic as people are coming and going from the schools. Always lots of changes that everyone's willing to bring forward to try to help make things move a little more efficiently, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people that drive to school that kind of bog down the whole bus route, so we are always working on ways to try to alleviate that. We'll see what the new system brings with the difference in start time. Maybe there won't be so many people driving to school every morning, but remains to be seen. Let's see, goal number 2, sustainability. In terms of sustainability, we're trying to increase ridership. I mean, it would be nice if we had less cars on the road, but we just put out some flex stops for walkers. We've done a lot of group stops, tried to do as much as we can. We'll still be working on that. I think sustainability would like to work on that too, because we'd like to get more students on the bus. Goal number 3, this is in relation to bus replacement, and we've been very successful over the last few years of trying to replace, if not 2, maybe 3 buses every year, so that we're always recycling our buses. We don't have any buses on the road over 10 years old. That's the goal, and we've been pretty good at sticking with that goal. Even with last year, we were able to lease the buses instead of buying them, so all is good there. Any questions about transportation?
I think the one thing is just the lack of drivers and
Yes.
trying to look at,
Agreed.
What factors or, I know it's not just this district, and you're right, I just heard something on the news as well that it's affecting, everywhere, basically. But maybe it certainly sounds to me like something that needs to be kind of investigated further in terms of, maybe is there a way to partner with other districts or do different, you know what I mean? Try and think of maybe some more creative ways to attract more drivers or to share drivers, or I'm not sure what, but.
Yeah, and we are negotiating with that group this year too, so we are looking at our pay scale.
Yeah.
And we're looking at other options that might attract more drivers to the district, so that's another way that we've thought of. We have that big sign out there. Got a few interested people, but so far it's only been a couple, so.
But our pay scale is very competitive with all other...
It is competitive, you're right, it is.
entities.
And we offer benefits.
Right.
So, there's some thought about bonuses and things like that might entice people, so, sign-on bonuses and things like that, so we'll keep trying. That's it for operations. Questions?
So just to quickly summarize, obviously, we've presented you an awful lot of information here in the last 25 minutes, but it's been a very successful year in many ways in the district, and we're very excited. We're now in the process of developing the goals that will then become the focus for the next year, and we should have those in the next month. Okay?
Thank you.
And just thank you to all the department heads who've done all this work. I mean, it's, like you say, it's been a successful, and I think just absolutely focused on, objectives, and it's really gratifying to learn all this.
Yeah, I am wholeheartedly agree with the level of effort that has gone into this is amazing, and it's given us a lot of district focus, which is great.
Okay, Suzanne?
So what I'd like to do is just address the memo that was attached to the file that you have, really talking about the high school and where we are with our master schedule and some of the work that we've been doing. For next year, we've made some minor changes to our schedule to accommodate the later start time. And all year last year, we had a group of, a committee put together to really examine the schedule. So next year, we have some changes made. I think you have those included in the packet as well, really going over what the schedule looks like. There's some small, there's obviously the change of the start time, but we tried to accommodate the athletic schedules. Andy Lathrop, the athletic director, has been working with schools to change the start times of games and to push them a little bit later. So we've added a half an hour when possible to the start time. Instead of starting at 4, we're starting at 4:30. So as we work through that this year, this coming year, and shifting some of those start times for games, we've pushed that flexible time in our schedule on many days to the end of the day to accommodate that. Moving forward, though, we acknowledge that while the schedule, the master schedule, doesn't drive curriculum, it doesn't drive personalized education, it's not the driver of all of these different things, it does impact them. And so the big question that we're asking is, does our master schedule really reflect the core values of the district and the mission of the school? Does it reflect what we believe in, that learners should have access to, do have access to? Does it support a multi-tiered system of supports? Does it embrace personalization of education for high school students? So the scheduling committee worked last year. They will continue to work this year. We'll start off the year with some school visits and some surveys that we will be sending out to faculty and to students to get some information from them about how they feel with the how they feel about the high school schedule. And then the goal is to propose some options to the faculty for a new master schedule in October, and then to bring it to the board the end of October, beginning of November. So the master schedule takes along, we start building the schedule in December. So, and Heather and the counseling office really have worked tirelessly on the schedule and put in many, many hours to finalize it. And students just received they recently received their schedules for next year. So it's a multi-step process that will start in December, and that's why we want to have this decision. If we're going to make a change to the schedule, we want to have it made early on in the school year. Yeah.
Yeah, when we visited those classes, the one area that really stuck out was the advisory period. And was it effective, or how could you make the advisory period more effective? Because I think there was a real debate among students about that. And if you look at it, that's 3 times a week for 47 minutes. It's a pretty good substantial block of time. So it's like...
So advisory went through a shift and a change, and last year was really the first year that we had program in advisory. We had, over the summer, an advisory committee met, and we also had a group of students and faculty, administrators, we had nurses, we had just representation, school psychologists, counselors, everybody meeting about integrated wellness. And that's part of advisory, is also. What does wellness look like in the high school, social emotional learning, the Cassell standards, all these things that are going on in the elementary level and the middle school level as well. And so I think that the kids had a lot of really valuable comments and questions about the advisory itself and how we're utilizing it. And so we're looking at all of that to make sure that it's beneficial for students, that it's beneficial for the school, that it meets our learning expectations that we have of graduates, and that it's all blended together, that it's all fitting nicely together. So we are taking that into consideration, the sociology class that looked at schools and the model of schools. So we have all of their comments, and we will be looking at those as well.
So on the Wednesdays, you have like a relearn, OH, I'm not sure.
So that's office hours.
Office, okay.
Yeah.
So if you had like an athletic team and would any athletic teams be able to leave early for that period, or that,
So the athletic teams will leave when they need to leave. The hope while we're working to move those games to a later start or to make adjustments with other schools, we're hoping that this will alleviate some of the concerns that the board and that parents had with kids missing class time. The other piece of it, which we're really excited about, is that it gives a significant amount of time for kids that maybe are missing a class on a Tuesday for a game, which Tuesdays are not a normal day, but theoretically, let's say Tuesday they would miss a class. They'd have that significant amount of time to meet with their teacher during those office hours on a Thursday. So we're hoping that that will balance it.
Mm-hmm. So would office hours be voluntary, or how would that work?
So we're actually looking at, office hours would stay the way that they normally have been, which is students go, they request to see a teacher requests to see a student, and then they work with that teacher. They start in their advisory, so they start with their advisory teacher, and then they leave, they take attendance there, and then they have their pass, and then they leave to go to whatever teacher they need to go see. Typically, it has not been at the end of the day, it has been in the middle of the day. So we're going to see what happens with it at the end of the day. We would like for all students to utilize that time to the fullest potential.
Right. So say you have a class of 20 in your advisory, do you have like 20 people then go out to teachers, or is it, I would assume it's a smaller number than that?
It is a smaller number.
And the rest of them, is it like a study hall then, or is
Yep.
it like,
Yeah, so they'll use it for study hall. One of the things we're looking at is a program called Enriching Students, and it's a program that's utilized by Conval and other high schools, and they have what, for lack of a better word, they call a flexible block in their day. And this program it's pretty remarkable. It allows students to go in to the program, sign up to go see a teacher to request a student in the program. It also allows for teachers to create, let's say they want to have yoga. And students could go in and they could actually sign up to do yoga. Let's say they don't have any relearning or reassessment to do, and they don't have any homework to do, but they'd really like to spend some time doing something else. They could sign up to go do something like that. So there's a lot of this flexible time scheduling it. This program has a lot of possibilities and options for us, and we're starting to look at that as a way to really use that time effectively for students and to give them options and choices for them to be self-aware and to make decisions. I know that I need to go do this, or for the teacher to say, this is something important, we need you to come and see me, and they can sign the kids up that way.
Yeah, really for most of our kids, it's not a significant shift in the way they've thought of office hours in the past. I think kids generally make choices for themselves, to go work with their video production teacher or whatever, and they do that. Really what this does is it allows us to kind of look at all kids and make sure all kids are, if they're not making good choices for themselves, we assist them to make those good choices, so that in the end, all students are getting what they need and they're supported and they're successful. And it kind of goes back to one of the things Al said too about advisory, because it is the same adult that is dealing with it during that time as advisory, so they're developing a relationship that's a little more than a study hall monitor.
And one of the things our integrated wellness committee looked at over the summer was what has already been mentioned about advisory is an important model, but it shouldn't be only for the high school. It shouldn't really be the only place that the social emotional learning is occurring, because everything from group work that kids do in a classroom, that is social emotional, that's part of the Cassell standards, and group work needs to be intentionally taught. And what a great place to do it, but in the classroom.
Now, Hanover has something like, did you study Hanover's model?
Yeah, there are a lot of schools that that utilize enriching students and that utilize this concept of the flex block, and there are a lot of ways that you can use it. And so we do have a variety of schools. Right now, we've identified Hanover, Bedford, Portsmouth, Bow, Gorham, and Sauhegan as schools that we would like to go and to visit.
Great. Questions?
Great.
No, I think, are we good?
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Superintendent's actions, I don't think we
No,
have
don't
it.
we have the other one? Isn't there the Mast Way, right?
I think we're down to board action.
The,
Am I missing something?
the goals reflection, was that part of this? I have it, sorry.
That was inadvertently put in your packet. There's another report that should be in there. I'll make sure it's swapped out.
Okay,
We're not dealing with that tonight.
No, you don't need that.
okay, because
Good catch,
okay.
though. Okay, so we are to board action items. We're not acting on the hiring of a world language teacher. So could I have a motion to approve the list of Oyster River High School department heads and advisors?
I'll motion to approve the list of department heads and advisors.
Moved by Denise, is there a second? Seconded by Brian. Discussion, questions on this?
I'm curious about the department head positions that are shared and how that works well and why that's the best way to do department head positions.
Suzette, maybe?
I'm curious about the department head positions that are split between two people and why that works.
So you could have to come.
So I could go through them if you'd like, to go through the different splits. Oops, I'm on the math team. So English that was already split when I arrived with Shauna and Kara. So that's just a continuation of the way that they've been functioning. Math is split. Peter Harwood has also taken on the responsibility of being the boys varsity hockey coach, and so he was a little concerned about having both of those roles, and so for next year we talked about splitting it so that he could be department head and work with Lisa Hallback as well. And then the split of Kim Cassimus and John Peterson is really a student services split. So what we've done is we have taken, instead of having special education and school counseling, we've combined them and have a department head for student services. And so John Peterson is a special educator and Kim Cassimus is a school counselor. And so they're working together to bring those departments together and really look at how we support students. So they each have their own kind of unique reason why.
Other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 5 in favor. The department heads and advisors are approved. Could I have a motion to approve the list of Oyster River Middle School and High School fall coaches? Denise?
I'll motion to approve the list of Oyster River Middle School and High School fall coaches.
Moved by Denise, second. Brian? Questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 5 in favor, those are approved. Motion to approve the list of, motion to approve the Oyster River Middle School activity advisors. Denise?
I'll motion to approve the middle school activity advisors.
Moved by Denise, second by Brian.
You're going fast here, I can't keep up. No, that's fine. It's okay, it's
Yeah.
okay, I got it.
It's a character flaw that I have. So. Questions? None? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, the activity advisors are approved. And motion to approve the elementary stipend activities nominations.
All right, I will motion to approve the elementary stipend activities nominations.
Moved by Denise, second by Brian. Are there questions on that? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 5 in favor, those are approved as well.
All right.
Okay, do we have any school board committee updates? These have been pretty quiet in the summer. Public comment? None? Okay, closing actions. So the manifest is not to be the last time that Denise and Al will be, and Dan Klein and I will take over for the next meeting on the 13th. So the September 13th will be the next regular meeting here in the high school. Okay? So ready to adjourn? You have a motion, Al?
Motion to adjourn?
Moved by Al, second by Michael. All those in favor? 5 in favor. We're adjourned.